Welcome back to Better Through Tech. Today we're going to be looking at some LEDs and how to fade them. We're going to look at a standard, I guess you could call it standard. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but Apple uses this technique when they're charging their devices. Some other companies like to use this stuff too when they're charging their devices. So we're gonna build a charging indicator by using a fade. We're going to show you how to do it the good old-fashioned way by using for loops, and then I'm going to show you a much cleaner way to do it. And then we're going to build, I'm going to show you my code, as I find it's the cleanest and smoothest way to do it. And we're going to build a structured system using mills to take advantage of the full color capabilities of an RGB LED and have it hit the full spectrum of colors. So, with that being said, let's get to it. If you don't already have your Arduino IDE open, let's go ahead and get it open. Let's create ourselves some space up here at the top. And we're, again, as always, we're just going to go LED. I already have a RGB LED hooked up, so I'm going to pick one of the 3 pins on that. I did use a common cathode LED, so it'll keep everything a little more straightforward and a little easier to follow. I think I'm going to pick just pin 3. That will be the red portion of the RGB. Then we're going to come down here and we are going to tab in and we are going to do our pin mode again, right, as always, our LED, and then we are going to say output, and then we're going to come down here and we are going to start off with going for, and we're going to say int, because we're going to put the variable inside the for loop. We're going to say int, we can call it x, and so for loops always have a 3-part argument to them. 3 parts to make them work. So the first part, or the first argument, is always going to be whatever your name is. It doesn't matter if you put the int down here or if you put the int up here. The int can be up here as well. You can start it off as 0. It doesn't matter. You can do either or. Just for demonstration purposes, we're going to put it down here in the loop section in the for loop, just to show you that it is an option. But we're going to say that it is equal to 0, and then we're going to use a semicolon to end it. Then the second part of the argument, we're going to say if x is less than, and you can say equal to, or just say less than 255, semicolon, then we're going to say x plus plus. So that says as long as, so it will say x is equal to 0. As long as x is less than 255, then add 1 to x. So what it'll do is it'll keep on adding to x until it is equal to 255. Only as long as it's less than equal to 255. As soon as it hits 255, it will stop. But with that, we are then going to go our analog right, LED, and then we are going to say, we're always going to use the name that we're using inside of our for loop, so that's going to be x, right? And then we want to set up a delay inside there, so that way it's controlled. Then we'll come down here below it, and we'll just copy and paste this, since we will just be using this again. So Control C, if you don't know, and then Control V. Same for pretty much just about any other Windows function. But yeah, so we got that set up. I don't know why it did that for. Sorry, my camera just stopped recording on me. But yeah, so what this will do is this will fade on and then this will fade off, but we have to flip these parameters around because this for loop will say we'll turn it on to full power, right? Well, it's not going to help if we turn it on to full power again. So now we have to say that x is equal to 255, and then flip this around and say x is more than 0, and then we're going to go minus minus. So this will say as long as x is equal to 255, and as long as x is more than 0, then take 1 away, and then it'll cycle down through this. So let's go ahead and we'll get our Arduino selected here. We'll hit run. Let's see what we get here. See if we get some. Well, got some stuff that it don't like. What do we got? Analog right. I put an E in there. I've really got to stop doing that. Analog is not spelled with an E. Analog right has an E in it, but that's it. Anywho, if you did what I did, make sure to take those E's out. Make sure you spell analog without the E. And there we go. So now we have it fading on and off. So this is a could be used as a status indicator or charging indicator. However you want to use this, you're more than welcome to try it out on anything you'd like. You could just turn the lights off in your room. If you got a nice bright 10 mil LED like this one is, this one's frosted. It'll help disperse the light more. You can just enjoy the color effect in your room. It's kind of cool. These little things are actually really bright, really impressive. You can also drop down the delay amount, and we can make it cycle through it faster. We'll drop it down to 5 mils just to give it a try. Just check it out. Why not? And it should pick up its pace quite a bit. There we go. So there is the regular for loops to get it running. But if you'd actually like to use this with another part of code, so you can actually use this as an actual indicator, so you can multitask, we're going to change this up a little bit. So I will put this in my GitHub, so if you guys want to check it out, you can play with it if you'd like to. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to write something similar to this. I feel it's a lot cleaner, and we'll be putting mils in it, so that way you can actually piggyback this off of any other code you have going on. So you can use this as a warning indicator, like I said, like a charging indicator, whatever you'd like, really. So let's go ahead and we'll clear that out. We'll leave the LED up there, but now we're going to say int. We're going to put it as 0. Space that out there. We are then, if you remember from the last videos, if we're going to be using mils, we have to have a unsigned long, because that's going to count some pretty big numbers. And an unsigned value, unsigned holds lots of values, and unsigned long holds lots and lots of values. Here in a couple of videos, I'll get into the more specifics. There are several different types of variables that we can use for this. There's ints, long. There's is there an unsigned int? I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. But you have your ints, then you have your longs, then you have floats, you have your strings, and you have your chars. So there's lots of different things you can set up with this. It's so it can be a little tricky sometimes, especially if you don't know what to use. But here in a later episode, we'll be getting a lot more into detail about that, about using what for what. So it's a lot easier. You can be much more informed about how this needs to work. So once we get that broken down, we will come down into here. I think we have that correct. Yes, we do. Then we will come into here. So we're going to build this out as a function. So I'm just going to call this fade, and we're going to put the delay amount there, or the hold amount, technically, since we're not using, or pause. Is it pause? I don't know if pause would be the fair word to use, since we will be using mils and we'll just be counting. But we'll go down here and we'll say fade and int, and we can say timer. And we'll come into here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say if mils minus, and we'll hit prev, is more than or equal to, again, if you remember from last time, timer. Put in there, and we'll say I is equal to I plus X, right? Since that's a little more of the longhand. That's actually a little more what traditionally you would be using to add numbers up. We'll enter it a couple more times, and we're going to give it the algorithm or the command structure we want it to compare, and so that way it knows what to do. So in here we are going to go I is equal to, so we're going to use two equal signs if you remember, because we're not assigning, we're comparing, and we're going to say 255, and then we will drop down one more, and then we will say X is equal to -1. Then we will come down underneath this one because we're done with that command, and then we'll start another if, and then we'll say if I is equal to 0, right? If I is equal to 0, then x will equal 1. So what that'll do is it'll flip the values back and forth, making this a little more cleaner. We'll get out of that if structure. We are going to write down our updater, which will update the mills counter, so that way it stays on track for us. And then we will come down here, and then we are going to hit light, because we're gonna put the light in its own function. Yeah, I know right now it's kind of pointless to do that, but it's a good habit. Once you start writing bigger and more complicated codes, it's always a really good idea to write everything into functions, because multiple sections of your code may need to access this. Maybe the fade part of your program, or even the lighting part of your program. And so you don't want it to be dipping into other functions or dipping into other parts of your code in the main loop. So I know it's not really needed right now, but I just want to make sure to try to instill a good idea, good habit, good functions in the thought process, so that way when you start getting into much more complicated code, any of your other functions or any parts of your loop can access it without having to go through anything else. And I know that I say that now. We have a function that's going to be calling a function, which is perfectly all right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But doing it this way will significantly reduce complication. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So we're going to go light. We're going to call it I, because remember, we're counting I's, so we want it to refer to the I. To I, me, no, I. Anyways, no, I didn't call that, so let's not put that in there. And there should be one more. Yep, there we go. So that's the end of it. So we're going to say this is the end of the fade, so we know that that's done. And then we're going to come down here, and we're going to do a void, and we're actually going to make the function for that light. And we're going to say light val, and then we're going to say analog. Don't put that E in there. And then we'll say LED and the val. And then we'll say end of the light. And then we should be good. Let's go ahead and upload this real quick. Make sure we got everything good to go. And we do. All right. So here is a much cleaner version of that for loop, and it's running on mills. And so since we're calling this as a function, you can actually mix this in like with our buttons, those buttons that we used earlier. And we will be doing this. Probably more than likely, actually, I shouldn't say that. It might be later in this episode. If not, we will be touching upon it very soon. I'll be showing you how to add this dynamic code that I'm going to show you next. And I'm going to show you how to add it into the static button program that we used earlier to change the colors. I will show you how to add a dynamic code into something that would normally be kind of static, not really moving per se. But just like before, if you wanted to speed it up or slow it down, you know, we could just replace that number right there, and we'll get it to upload and then off. Well, okay, so it needs a reset, and then off it goes. See how fast that's going now? So that's not crazy. But yeah, I'll make sure to get this put in the GitHub too. If you guys want to reference this, look at it, see how it works. But yeah, so the last specific part of the code I wanted to touch upon. I'll program like a piece or two of this out, because this is a little bit of a long code, and I don't really want to spend the next hour trying to explain how this all works and how this is all put together. I will definitely make sure this gets put on to GitHub. But I know this is not the cleanest, but you know what? For right now, it works, and it's easy to follow. And for what it's worth, as far as the color transition is concerned, it's very smooth. It's very consistent. You don't get any weird flickering when you're trying to change colors with some other codes. For some odd reason, other codes do not. Some work quite well, some not so much. This one is going to be one of the better running codes. I have run across some that they just don't work very well. I mean, they work, but they have a weird flicker tendency when they're trying to change colors, which is super annoying, especially if you're trying to kick back and chill and enjoy the ambiance. Let's say, you put this up in a music room or something like that, and you're listening to some tunes, and yeah, I don't know. Anyways, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna program this out. I'm just gonna pull it up. I have it on my other screen. I'm gonna pull it up. We'll just talk about it, and then I'll post it on GitHub for you to use. And yeah, and then we'll just grab this. And I'm gonna pull it over. So this is my I guess build of the dynamic color fade. So I gave it the names for the 3 pins, 3, 5, and 6, because those are the ones, some of the ones with the tilde on them. So you can get those to, because those are the pulse width modulation. That's how you're going to get it to do its pulsing like this, if you remember from the last videos. Then this will be using mils, so we have to do our unsigned longs, and each one of these has its own specific unsigned long. And then here is the values that it'll be saving. This is not going to be correct right now. Actually, no, this will be correct. I did hook up, like I said, a common cathode this time, so we don't have to worry about the confusing pulling high, pulling low resistor stuff. This is just going to be straight up, just the way exactly that it is. But yeah, so we have our pin outs, our pin modes, the all outputs, and then we have our loop, which reads this function. And then as it comes down here, remember this value will end up being fed into this, and as you can see, these other ones are lighting up. So as this runs, and I have this in a command structure, and if you notice it says if state is equal to 0. Well, right now, as soon as you load up the code, the state will be equal to 0. So this will be the very first part of the code that it reads. So it'll say red plus plus. So that's adding one to each iteration. And it says if red is more than or equal to 255, then red equals 255. And that's in place just to make sure the counter doesn't overcount or keep on counting past. But once red has equaled 255, then state will equal 3. So now if you see that, then this fades in. So this will go down to state 3. So we'll skip state 1, and we'll skip state 2, and then it comes this one, state 3. And this is where the blue will fade in. Blue plus plus, if blue, this just repeats. If blue is more than or equal to 255, then blue equals 255. Again, that's just to keep from overcounting. But then once that becomes true, then state equals 4. So then it comes down here, and then we're gonna subtract the red out, because now we saw the transition, now we just want to see blue, right? So we're gonna fade red out, so we're gonna do the opposite of plus plus, so negative negative. So what does that mean? Now we're going to do the opposite way. Now red is less than or equal to 0, then red will equal 0, then continue on to state 5. This will continue on, so we'll fade green in, then fade blue out, and then once it hits equals to 6, it'll go back to 1. So it'll go back up here, and instead of coming in with our starting val, now it'll come to this one where our state 1 is at, and then it'll continue to repeat the process over and over and over again. Then we have our light out. You don't want to put a whole bunch of these. You don't want to put one of these in every single one of these if statements, because it'll start getting flickery and real jittery, and it doesn't want to work very well. So all you need to do, as long as you have your counting values out, because these, if they were solely saved, say if I had it set up like this, and blue, this would be inside of this if statement, which means it will only survive and work within that if statement. So that means if you were trying to send blue here, it won't work, because this is a very localized holding value that will only be active inside this if statement. And if you remember, we gave these global variables, which means they're all the way up here at the top. So that means every part of the code can see them. So, if you remember from our last videos, I know I've been saying that a lot, and I'm probably going to say it a few more times. Since we have all that stuff saved as global variables, we can write the output for light just once. So every time one of these updates, it sends all the information to here. That way you don't have to worry about trying to contend with what 0 is where and why, and what value is what and where and why. So you only write this once, all you need to worry about. And then, as usual, then we have our function for our light out, you know, our red, green, and blue, and then this is where we're going to do our analog writes to compare our red LED with our red value. And that's how we're going to get our colors. And do I have it up right now? I don't know if I have it up right now. I will pull it up real quick, just in case you forgot. I will pull it up one more time so you can see it, how to hook up this LED. Remember, this is going to be a common cathode. So this is going to be pulled to ground, if you remember. So the resistor is going to be connected to the ground rail. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Sorry, I have a lot of projects for us to go over in the future. A lot of beginner classes and a lot of advanced stuff. This one will work. I have a lot of stuff in store for us. So as you can see, that this resistor right here is connected to the ground plane. And then you have your red, your green, this should be green, and then blue. I have those backwards for some weird reason. But anyways, this is exactly how we have this LED hooked up right now. So just in case you forgot, there's that reference for you. So we'll close that out real quick. And so since we've gone over that, let's go ahead and double check, make sure we're still connected, and let's go ahead and upload. And let's marvel at what we have just achieved. I might turn off the light here so you can see it better, but it will start transitioning through the colors. And it will go through the entire, ooh, holy cow, that thing really glares in the camera. It will go through the entire spectrum of colors. And it'll go from red to blue and everything in between. Then it'll go from green or blue to green and everything in between. And then it'll go from green to red and everything in between. So it should hit every spectrum color possible that the RGB values and any combination of those RGB values can hit. So yeah. So there you go. We will be touching upon how to add that tactile button again. We'll be pulling up one of our old codes, and then we will go over. We'll touch upon the old code again, just in case we got a couple new viewers that haven't seen the other videos. I'll touch upon that one more time about how to hit the button and change the colors. But then we're also going to add this code to it, so that way you can pick any color you want. And then for the last wow option, if you'd like, we can get this to do a dynamic or fluid color change. So yeah, congratulations, made it to another video. Thank you very much. Please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. I swear I'm going to be coming out with cooler stuff. We're just doing a couple of tutorials now because I want to help people get spun up, but we're going to be touching on some really cool topics here really soon. I can't wait to show everybody. And again, if you have any questions or if you have any code that you're working on and you're stuck, feel free to message me, hit me up on here, and we'll go over it. We'll get it figured out, and we'll help you get you going, because you know what? Everybody deserves to know this kind of stuff. Everybody deserves, you know, if this is what your interest is, you deserve to know. You know, it's not fair if anybody happens to gatekeep this stuff from you, you know, because I've run across a few people like that. They really tend to suck. You know, I know this stuff, and yeah, you're going to have to figure it out the hard way. I'm not going to do that. I want everybody, this kind of information shouldn't be hoarded. I feel like anybody who wants to learn this stuff should have the right to easily access the knowledge that I have, and easily access the knowledge that anybody has on this, really. But I'm willing to put my knowledge out there. So if you have any problems with anything, you need help with anything, write me up, and I will see if I can help you out and see if we can get you through this. And again, thank you.